No one really knew when she first showed up in the chambers. She had your basic bipedal vertebrae body type, though a bit shorter, but more upright than a few of the others. Since she never spoke and kept out of the way, we really didn't mind her. After a short while, she was pretty much forgotten. No matter what the discourse was, she sat back to the rear, out of the way, silent. She was seemingly ignored by everyone, with the exception of myself. She looked out of place, her long blue and green hair, pale skin, and her deep blue eye, and shorter stature than most. She appeared to have two eyes, however one was obstructed by some sort of covering, surrounded by scarring in her skin. I have no idea what could have happened to cause something like that. Bucking the trends the rest of us followed, she wasn't wearing the draped cloth, or even just nude like a few others I had seen. She wore a thick but flexible black material with silver accents that seemed doubly wide near the joints. A few chains decorated her waist, while high and thick coverings surrounded her feet. Stress creases could be seen throughout. Whatever the material was, it seemed to have been worn for quite some time. As much as I attempted to pay attention where it was needed, my mind often drifted back to her. While the rest ignored her, she didn't seem to ignore the rest. Her eye was constantly drifting among everyone. Judging by the changes of her countenance, it seemed she was attentive to the proceedings. Eventually I paid more attention to the work, where it was supposed to be. Things progressed as they always will, and continue as they must. It was mostly the usual arguments. Who got what at what time, and who will remain allied and who will begin to fight. I felt something pull to me, calling out to me, pleading for help and safety, praying for answers. I generally shrugged these off, but this was becoming a strong force. The room started to quiet as many others shared the same feeling. I glanced again to the rear to see if the newcomer was having a reaction as well. It turned out she was speaking calmly to some figure draped entirely in blackened, ragged cloth. After a moment, the figure evaporated, and the woman finally stood. She moved toward the center of the room with a hauntingly fluid grace. The jangle of chains as she moved became the only sound that was heard. Every eye and sensory organ focused on her as she made her way to the podium in the middle of the hall. She stood behind the podium and took a moment to look at every individual in the entirety of the room. She closed her eye and bowed her head slightly before opening it, raising her head before calling out to all in her sing-song voice. "I am Gaia. I now speak before you all to announce, my children, they are coming."